Sally Yates is a holdover heroine wannabe. She's insubordinate and should have been canned, which is what Trump did. Trump creates Yates. That's as simple as it is. This is a woman who basically said, I've got no chance in this administration. I'm going to build myself some cred among the professional left, the cartoon left, the Hollywood left, the big law left. I want to build myself a name, a reputation. So I'm going to take this position as a holdover acting attorney general, and I'm going to basically act insubordinate. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit ahead of time, which is what you and I would do. No, I'm going to basically tell the department, we're not going to defend the president's decisions. We're not going to defend them. We're basically not going to follow through with his directive. No, it's not unconstitutional at all. Clearly it's not. You may not like it. It may bother you. You know, in this country, we love to say something's unconstitutional or, my favorite, un-American. Even though un-American is losing any kind of instance or, semblance of what that phrase means. But it's always unconstitutional. We have this idea about this is unconstitutional. And not only that, everybody seems to be an expert in SCOTUS appointments and the like. So we've got 2-1. By the way, as I do this, 2-1 looks like it's going to be Gorsuch and Hardiman, who are going to be brought up to Washington. And as we speak, the usual prototypical cartoon left are just acting in concert against them, even though they know nothing about their record, what they do, what they're about, what they say, nothing. Just absolutely nothing. They are just acting in concert, acting just reflexively regarding this without any consideration whatsoever of who this man, who they are, or what they stand for. They just know it's Trump, they're Trump, and they're bad, and that's it. Now let me go back. This is not the Saturday Night Massacre. This is not people basically losing, retiring, stepping down, resigning their position based upon a belief that they have. See, that something is illegal or improper, whatever. The key is they step down. They stepped down. They didn't follow the directives. What Sally Yates is doing is she basically wants to be now, all of a sudden, and she will be the darling of the political left. You see, I don't know. I don't know every day how much more of this froth you can maintain. We're looking at 11 days. This is the 11th day. 11 days that we have, or that you have basically endured of this. And so far, with those 11 days, you have lost your mind. And most don't have any idea of really what it is that they're upset with. And it comes down to this. It's a very, very simple thing. And I will tell you this much. Seriously, very, 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 very simple. They don't like Trump because of his personality. They don't like him. You know how sometimes you'll see somebody on TV or a star or a sports person, like they'll say, I don't like Belichick, or you don't know these people. You just don't like them. It's immediate. I mean, it's real. It may not be justified, but nonetheless, it's real. That's it. And that started from the beginning because, number one, Trump was a guy that you thought was, for whatever reason, not qualified. And you're entitled to your opinion. I mean, let's face it, he's never held any office. I would submit that the drafters of the Constitution would have probably been more at home with a farmer or somebody who was just a kind of a nobleman, so to speak, in that particular phrase, than somebody who was a professional politician before they even had them. You don't like the way he looks. You don't like his attitude. You don't like his brusqueness. He's rude. He's contumacious. He's obstreperous. He's dismissive. He's done things that you consider to be wacky and stupid and below, below the high standards that Lyndon Johnson set, but below the high standards of Barack Obama, because Barack Obama, let's face it, is much more smooth. No doubt about that. That's why he's there. That's why he was so effective and so dangerous. But what's happening right now is this scrum against every single thing that Trump does. And you're going to burn yourself out. This is my message. You've got to understand this. You're not going to be able to maintain this pace. It's 11 days. He was inaugurated on the 20th. Think about this. Think about what we're talking about. And for nothing else other than a practical reason, you can't maintain this hatred if you just keep ratcheting it up every single day over stuff you know nothing about. Nothing. And now you're going to go after Supreme Court nominees? I promise you will. Because that's what you do. You don't know anything about him or them or what they stand for or what they do. You don't. You can't keep this up. You're going to have to reel this in. And you better tell Soros he better back up. Back up and back off. Slow it down. You're shooting your wad. You're going to have nothing. To use a professional wrestling term, you're blowing up. You have exhausted all of your strength in doing this one particular move. And it's ridiculous. Not to mention, this is the most important part, there are people around the country who don't understand what it is you're talking about. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Caleb Maupin, did a wonderful piece. He was in Ohio talking to people in small town, and they want jobs. They're worried about jobs and factories closing, and they have no interest in anything that you're suggesting. You see, that is a part of the froth and the frenzy. And everybody seems to have. It seems like there's this Republican bad guy that people have. I'm trying to think who was the Obama bad guy. Well, it goes back to Karl Rove. Remember him? Rove, Cheney. Oh my God, the absolute. I thought it was seething. It was nothing. It was courteous. It was dispassionate compared to this. But there always seems to be this rogue bad guy that you focus everything on. You know, and I know, that during 1960, when the Milgram experiment came along, you could, if they've shown this, that you could target a particular group of people that could be targeted for a systematic dehumanization, and it was meant to show how the Jews could have been selected and basically picked for this vile anti-Semitism to the point of extermination and liquidation and the like. And the Milgram experiment came out. That's the electric shock, fake electric shock. And then 10 years later, the Stanford prison experiment. It's very easy to prevent the professional cartoon left, the Facebook elitist, loudmouth Hollywood type of left. Now, let me explain something to you, okay? Let me explain this. Those terms have been used, and there was it's very interesting. It's very interesting evolution, and I think a lot of my viewers or Lionel Nation citizens might want to stop and think about this. The whole notion of the elitist of left, of Hollywood, they were always courted and basically targeted for use and exploitation, frankly, in my opinion, during World War II, when they were used to sell war bonds and war efforts, when they were with the USO and they support the troops and Bob Hope and that sort of thing. It was concerned kind of basically a patriotic introduction of Hollywood. Hollywood was part and parcel with America. It was a different Hollywood, obviously, but they did nothing that, there was no such thing as, the counterculture. Robert Mitchum, smoked dope. I'm trying to think who would have been, maybe Charlie Chaplin during his particular time. His was more of a sexual thing. It wasn't really political per se. But so Hollywood was always hand in hand and was always considered to be the friend of America, a true blue, red, white, and blue. It's the way classic Nashville was under Roy Acuff and Eddie Arnold, American, and Lee Greenwood and all this kind of stuff. Next came the 50s. And then came House American Activities, HUAC, House Un-American Activities Committee, or Committee, and red scare and red baiting and, communist infiltration and all this kind of jazz. And that was fascinating for a number of reasons. And the reason for that was that it was the first time that we saw this other side. I mean, we'd always suspected, but the first time that the public all of a sudden identified and targeted Hollywood as perhaps not being our friends, not being people that we trust, not being on the same side. It was really an interesting break from the tradition of Hollywood being, the good guy wing of the American of our government. All right. And they were also coming out of, remember, and this is something which is also important to note. Communism, especially in this particular country, came out of, this was World War I, with a bunch of disenfranchised American soldiers in particular who fought fascism. And who joined us? Who was against fascism? The communists. Communists didn't have that stigma yet. They didn't have that pinko commie Rosenberg, that HUAC, Dalton Trumbo, who was a different situation. But the usual, the Hollywood 7 or 8 or whatever it was. Okay. But at the time, they had come out of World War I, and these were the ones who wanted their bonuses, and they marched, and they were just abandoned. They came here, they had no money, they had no food, unemployment was high, and they said, wait a minute, I just fought in the worst conceivable war you could ever imagine, the war to end all war. Or I came back and I've been abandoned by my government, and communism at that particular time provided really a focus, a centered focus, a mass traction targeting of those issues which affected the American worker. This is before the notion of the worker even took on a commie sound to it. The worker, the Workers' Party. It's interesting how, and Bernays will tell you this, how PR can change. Wow. Since when does the workers have this notion, this anti-American, why the workers are the backbone of this country, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So, that changed. Then came Vietnam. Vietnam was the 60s was the perfect crystallization of that of the first introduction of the liberal, effete, cowardly, spineless left. Okay, where Jane Fonda and that sort of thing. Jane Fonda, take her out of the equation completely. What she did was insane. Okay? Insane. You can argue all you want about the war, but at the time, and I don't want to relitigate Jane Fonda, but for God's sake, but going and basically, sitting in a, anti-aircraft machine gun or weapon system that probably was used to shoot down American soldiers. No. Okay, but aside from that, the people who did protest, and the songwriters and the hippies, and they were spot on. God loved them for that. Okay, but then we're going to do another thing. Then after, this is post Reagan, and then post Fox News. Fox News was a very, 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 very critical aspect of the development of our country's collective way of thinking. Fox News was huge. And when the Gulf War came along, they dusted off all that nonsense about you're either with us or against us, and if you're not with us, and if you're not this and that, and all this kind of jazz. Well, to make a long story very short, it was then that we saw a resurfacing of this. Okay, now, jump to today. And here's what this brand of anti-Trump activism is all about. Let me see if I can explain this one to you. This might make some sense. This is all of the vitriol, all of this classic 60s And I use these terms just for purposes of this particular understanding, of this explanation. But it was all of that negativity and all of that mindless, insane, the usual stuff about being anti-American, whatever, but without a cause, without a function. Today's anti-Trump are baseless, no platforms, no ideology, no nothing, no politics, no position, no ideas, no mass traction, targeting of plans. What about health or anything? Nothing. They're not left. They're not commies. They're not progressives. They're not liberals. They're not Hollywood. They are anti-Trump, and they wear their anti-Trump, I guess, badge like people do sometimes their tattoo. It's a fad. It's something that brings them together. It's a shibboleth. It's a code word. It's a kind of the decoder ring, the dog whistle, the way that people meet en masse and just foment, and again through social media, which just acts as this wonderful funneling of all of this mass kind of anger, detached, uninvolvement, whatever you want to call it. All of it kind of brought together in this kind of an organized and focused mere hatred for Trump. That's it. I have been listening. I have been watching. I have been paying attention like you cannot believe. And I still marvel at the fact, and this is the giveaway, he was hated before he even spoke. He was hated before he did anything. He didn't even need any kind of program about this alleged Muslim ban, which there is not a Muslim ban. I've already been through this. You heard my other video. Hope you did. But this started before he did anything. So what we have right now is this frothing, crazed... Let me tell you something. I was listening today to a relatively informed, kind of connected, kind of... for lack of a better word, involved news person. Let me just give it to you that. And it was in a talk show. I'm not going to mention the name. And I thought it's representative. And this is a newsman. This is a newsman. News director, as a matter of fact. News director for a broadcast medium. I'll just leave it at that. And what this person said when asked, what is your problem with Steve Bannon? Now, this is the most obscure rate. This goes to show you the degree of hatred that these people have. Steve Bannon has nothing to... Nobody knows who he is, what he did. He looks either... If you like him, he looks like a Harvey Weinstein, kind of sloppy, gruff, out of shape, kind of lumbering. He does. He's got that look. If you like him, it's great. It's he's a lot of things. But if you don't like him, he looks mean and that. So anyway, make a long story short, I'm listening to this particular broadcast, and the news director, who was in a position of just conversational about Bannon, said, I don't know, it's just the way he looks. This was a news director in a major market media outlet opining that he didn't like Steve Bannon. Not because he's not qualified, not because he's encroaching, let's say, the historic. There really is no jurisdictional... what am I trying to say? There is no jurisdictional excesses that he has involved himself with, or whatever it is. He hasn't violated any kind of statutory. He hasn't gone outside of the bounds rather of law. Anyway, he said, I don't know, I just don't like him. Could he get a haircut? Could he? And I thought to myself, this is so perfect. I wish I could make copies of this. This is a news director of a major market. I can't say this again. If this man who lives and breathes news, who does nothing but read news stories and papers and I guess watch in order to prepare for his job as news director, if the best he can come out to explain his absolute rancid detestation of Steve Bannon is that he looks like that, I thought that's it. That's it. So today you're going to hear right now people scream about Trump's choices, his appointees, his options, as being unqualified. They are not unqualified. You may not like them ideologically. That's fine. I dig that. In fact, I'm at the point right now where if somebody actually pointed to ideology or record, I think I would weep out of this intense sense of satisfaction and happiness. My God, finally, there's some kind of a connection to reality, something that's fact-based, something that's not just the way he looked. But that's it, because that's it. Now, this week, we have been hearing, all right, not this week, just the other day. Remember, it's only been, 11 days. He's been in office 11 days. And I'm hearing this Muslim ban, Muslim ban, Muslim ban. I told you this before. I spoke about it. I'm not the only one who's saying it. It's true. It's not a Muslim ban. What are there, 49 to 51 countries with Muslim majorities, and seven countries were selected? Now, you may argue, why those 7? Or maybe, who knows? I mean, whatever your argument is, that's fine. But what you've been told is it's a Muslim ban. And you say, well, wait a minute. What about the other 42 to 43 or so countries that have been left out of this equation? What about those? If it was a Muslim ban, you'd have all these countries with the majority of them being Muslim. How do you account for that? Well, no, I don't know. Why? Well, and then I hear this. How come he didn't ban, what was it, not Pakistan? How come he didn't ban Saudi Arabia? Would you like him to ban Saudi Arabia? Let me get this straight. You want more countries banned. And I'm with you on that one, by the way. Oh, I'm with you. I don't know how we in this country, I mean, is Saudi Arabia just granted what blanket immunity and impunity, notwithstanding everything that they've done involving this country in the past? My God, is there anything? Do we not know? Do we not remember what they do? Forget that. The Wahhabism. This is the font. This is the wellspring. This is where this crazy jihadist stuff that you talk about, even though you're using the term incorrectly. So I'm with you on that one. But are you saying that? No, you're not. You're just trying to find something to throw at Trump because you hate Trump, and I guess it's because something. Whatever the reason is. You don't like the way he looks, or his hands, or his hair, or his wife, or his shows, or he's not presidential. It's not qualifications. It's not anything. It's not, look, the man's stupid, or he's not born in this country, or he's not old enough, or any of this stuff. None of that. No. It's this thing where you have again said that you don't like him, and it's been fueled and fomented, and it's been encouraged by people, especially in social media. Now, when I discuss this with my colleagues, I started off and still start off not at all being a Trump fan or acolyte. What I'm shocked about is I don't even get to the Trump part before I go through and have to ask you, what are you thinking about when you come up with this insane hatred and loathing and detestation of him? And why are you standing up? Why do you think what Sally Yates did was so terrific? Why? Why do you think that? And why are you against this executive order? An executive order that you didn't read. And why do you think it is a Muslim ban when it's clearly not? Why do you do this? Why do you continue to say the same things? Because, I will tell you, you're not called out on it. Because nobody has ever told you. When Obama canceled dry foot, wet foot in order to appease Castro's, did anybody mention that? We're basically denying asylum to people who are fleeing from a murderous, rapacious, homicidal regime that they consider to be so. Now, you may not. You may have been one of these folks who took the tour to Havana and you figure, I've been there and it's beautiful and it's great. And okay, fine. But there are some people who disagree with you. How do you explain that? There's no consistency here. None. So again, here's my finale. Let me just give this to you. 1, if you really want to stop Trump, if that's what you want to do, here's what you have to do, and listen carefully. Number 1, you have to know the facts. You can't merely take or copy a headline from some cool-sounding source like Huffington Post. Everybody and their mother writes for Huffington Post. Huffington Post doesn't even exist. Daily Kos or whoever these people are. Merely copying and posting a headline does not substitute in any way for really knowing and having an idea of the actual facts, okay? That's the first thing. I can't say this enough. I can't explain it enough. I just can't say it enough, okay? That's the first thing. Number 2, you're going to have to calm down. You're going to have to calm down. And you're going to have to realize that what you're doing is you are wearing out your welcome. You are absolutely habituating people to this extreme rancor, this baseless, pointless, platformless, uneducated, just blanket targeted hate of Trump and all that is Trump. That doesn't work. You're going to wear people out. You're going to be beyond cry wolf. You're going to be beyond Cassandra or sour grapes or whatever fable you want to look at. You're beyond that. And while you're having a good time with your friends, showing all of your friends on social media and Facebook in particular that you have really understood this, that you hate Trump more than they do, and that you have won the I Hate Trump award or spectacle by virtue of your incessant, maniacal, crazed, absolutely just this perseveration. You're going to have to move beyond that. You can't, you're going to kill yourself 11 days into this. Because every time something happens, they're going to say, okay, here we go again. Here we go, usual suspects. Now, right now, the ratings are fun and they're exciting because it's brand new. But if you think, by the way, this is my message to people in show business. If you think you're going to just be able to just hammer Trump without going beyond it, without taking something and maybe crafting it into something else as a kind of a stepping stone, you're out of your mind. You're missing the point completely. I can't say that enough to you. Please do yourself a favor. It's okay to hate him. It's your right. It's American to hate. I dig it. I understand. But you gotta stop this. You really gotta just regroup and learn. And as far as Sally Yates goes, you do know that that's all about Sally. It's all about her burnishing her cred, her street cred, so she can have her moment in the sun. She can join a kind of a white shoe or big law, progressive firm, or who knows, be courted by somebody there. We're going to forget her so fast, it'll make your head spin. And let me just leave you with this. Please do not suggest for a moment that what she did was what occurred during the Saturday night massacre, during Watergate. That didn't happen. Okay? Good. I want you to like the particular video. Oh, thank you always for following me. I appreciate this. But like the particular video. And don't forget to sign up for and subscribe to the Lionel Nation videos. And until you and I meet each other again, it's your new best friend, Lionel, reminding you to comment as you see fit.